Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be continuing our series dedicated to rolling line here with a look at how to lay track and kind of how to do the basics. Now one thing I will say, I've been playing this game for a little bit now, but it does not mean I'm an expert. I just thought I'd share some of the things that I found that made it a little bit easier to do the stuff that I like to do, which is, build train sets. So let's go to it. So I'm going to press OK. I'm going to go ahead and pick a custom map, press OK, and I'll stick with empty for today. So when you first come into one of these brand new maps, it's kind of worth knowing that there's a couple different things that you're going to want to kind of keep an eye out for. The first thing I like to do is customize my room a little bit. There's a whole thing about custom room. One thing I wish they would do, and hopefully the designer of this sees this, is if I could just press U or something, and it brings up a little thing where I could dial in the hex code of a particular color. The way we do it instead is we pop open this drawer, come down here, and you can actually pick the color of the room. So in this case, let's go with a nice dark blue, custom walls color, push that. Go ahead and put this away, press R, go ahead and click custom, and I got this nice blue room. I've got kind of a white ceiling, and my floor is kind of this grayish carpet kind of a thing. So let's see what that looks like. Ugh. I don't think that I like that very much. Let's try something a little bit like this. Oh my god, what have I done to my room? This is a disaster. There we go. Nice and boring. Cool. So the first thing I like to do when I'm getting started here is I like to lay out my tables. So when you're laying out tables, a couple things you want to kind of keep in mind. First of all, if you look up top, you have the ability to snap tables together or snap them onto a grid. I like snap to grid, but I'll show you one of the problems you're going to have with it. So coming down here, by default, you're going to have a bunch of different options for tables. We have all these kind of big, thick tables. If I pop one of these down, you can see it's got this big chunk hanging underneath it. If we have one, two, we could do the wooden tables, which are my favorite. And of course, you have these, I almost call them the hover tables. You can see there's nothing underneath here, but the reason that the hover tables are really good is if you're creating a link between two separate tables, this is a great way to do it. For example, if I were to go back to it, I've gone too far. For example, I were to grab, let's put this table here, and let's go ahead and make a copy of him and put him over here oh, you got to be careful with that snap. It's got quite a bit of space there. Now when I come back to the hover tables, I can now grab this guy, and actually because of that auto snap, I can link them like this. So now, I can do one of these, where you walk underneath the table or something like that. One of the things I do when I'm working with the tables a little bit is you want to kind of set up your layout the way you want it, and then you want to lock everything in place so you don't accidentally. One of the most common mistakes I've made in this is I'm there's a piece of track right here. I'm all right, I'm going to delete that piece of track. Oh. And there's no Control Z. So unfortunately, it's busted. I can't bring that back. So I'd have to kind of reset it. So let's go ahead and make our table here. Like I said, I'm going to keep it, pretend this is just kind of a boring, a dining room table here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my central piece here. Whoa, you're going to do that a lot. Don't worry. Let's grab my centerpiece. I'm going to try to keep it close. I'll put it right there. And let's go ahead and put on two kind of ends like this. So when I'm placing this table, if you just left click and let go, you'll notice I have to run back and get another copy. If I want to make a copy of this table, if I left click it again, see I have a copy in my hand. So now I can come over here and pop it there like this. Now it's worth noting if I right click on an item, you rip it up, but you hold it in your hand. So I can now go ahead and left click it. One of the really, really neat things that they built into this is you can actually copy something that's in your hand. So for example, let me say I right click this, so I put it in my hand here. If I hold down the shift key, then left click, you can see I can actually place more than one copy. Now, if you want to have some fun here, you can do one of these kind of things or something like that. Totally up to you. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and get rid of the copy that I have in my hand, I can just press the R key and it pops out. Now, let's say we wanted to design this table in such a way that it kind of comes out this way with a small section. So let's go back over there and I'll grab the small section. And this is where your table placing foo will fail you. There's not enough ability to actually tweak this so that it fits exactly where I want it to. So here's how you get around that. I'm going to let go here. I'm going to stand as close to the center as I can. I'm going to hold my mouse over this and I'm going to press the F key. That's going to bring up this little widget down here that's going to give us the ability to tune the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the try to get it as centered as you can game and call that centered and press F again to confirm my changes. Now, one of the cool things with doing something like this is if I click on this table to copy it, I can snap to the room, or I can snap to the table, and you can see that I can actually build myself a little offshoot of this table right there that I can now use for our purposes. We'll put an end of a line or something right here. We'll do an oval. Like I said, we're trying to keep this kind of simple today. So next, what I like to do with my tables is I like to set a base color. Keep in mind you can change this anytime. So let's grab this kind of a multi-grain here. And you just left click to go ahead and set the color of your table. You can actually make the sides of the table quite a bit darker if that's something that you want to do. It's pretty straightforward. If you right click, by the way, you're going to drop something. And if you want to edit it, you can actually press the F key and that's the object. If I want to destroy it, I can press R. If I want to pick it up again, I can right click. Now, one thing I like to do too is if there's a color I know I'm going to use a million times, I like to put it on my utility belt, which you can kind of see hovering right there. To put something in utility belt, just press the number that corresponds with it in the bottom left corner of the screen. So for example, if I press the 3 key, I go ahead and toss that into my 3 pocket. If I press 3 again, I pop it out here. One of the reasons I like that is if you go, oh, I'm just going to drop it on the floor and whatever, you're going to have about 100 of these on the floor, and they do build up quickly. Right click, and it's gone, kind of a thing like that. So let's go ahead and lock this. How do you lock things? Come here and press Apply All Changes. As soon as you do that, you're going to notice I can no longer click on this by accident, which is such a godsend. Trust me. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to I deleted half my table, or I picked the table up and I put it over there. You're going to do it a lot. So let's go ahead and get started with some track laying. Now for today, we're going to keep it nice and simple. I'm not going to do anything weird. I'm just going to kind of show you what works for me. So let's go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of this table. To do that, make sure you're under the utility box right here, and you have this thing called Portable Item Drawer. I like to go ahead and click it. I like to run over to my workstation, and if you want to have a lot of fun with this, you can actually make this into a regular drawer. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to try to square that off as best I can here, so it looks sits roughly like that. Go to the Edit option here. I'm actually going to tap the Tab key to make it universal, so I'm snapping to the room, and I can actually sit here and I can snap so precisely that I'm basically sitting here at an angle like this, which is super handy. When I'm happy with that, I can just press the F key, and I know I'm pretty satisfied, like I said. I don't have to be perfect here. Now, one of the things that, like I was mentioning, is we're going to make this thing a drawer. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull this out so you can see it a little bit more clearly. Again, the F key allows you to edit these things. So if I go to Edit Options, you're going to get a box, and there's this one that says Handle to Open. You see how it becomes a drawer? Now, if I change the style, I can make it a little plastic thing. I can make this little, you can make it like a glass case. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with this depending exactly what you want to do here. It does not make that big of a difference. I'm kind of a fan of making this like a red velvet kind of a thing. I don't know. It's just a thing for me. So what I'll do is I'll run over here and I'll get myself like, let's grab this red here. And again, it's your table. You can decide exactly what you want to do. I like to just, oh, look at that. Isn't that sweet? That way you make it a little bit more rich. And then what you can do, of course, is, I want to go ahead and grab, let's get myself this kind of like lace brown here. We can actually go ahead and change the box color as well to this brown. So if we wanted to, we could kind of match the table a little bit here, depending on what we want to do. So I'm just going to press that right there. I'm happy with that. Use handle open. And like I said, we can change the style. And when we're done, we just hit apply. So now I can press the F key again, and I can shove it back underneath where it belongs. So I can go shove it. And again, yes, I know that table doesn't actually have a thing here. But what's so cool now is if I hold my mouse on this and I click, shunk, you can go ahead and shove that sucker right under there. And one of the cool things, like I was mentioning before, is there's nothing stopping me from coming over here and left-clicking on it to get a copy of it. So now I can take my lovely copy that I just made and I can shove it somewhere else too. So I can stick it over here, grab my F tool again. I will try to clean this up a little bit. It's not going to clean up because I'm a bad person. Oh well, you'd have to try to get it as accurate as you can game. One thing I hope the developer does do is give you like absolute coordinates or something for the people who are like me, who are absolutes. But now that we have 2 drawers here, again, I'm not going to keep it this way. You can pop these both open like that. So now that we have a little bit more control, you can do whatever you want kind of a thing. I'm going to come in here and I'm actually going to get rid of that. Once you have your drawer the way you have it, and again, you don't have to do a drawer. A lot of people put them vertically. It does not make a difference. You're the developer. You define what you want to do here. Once I have the drawer the way that I like it, I'm going to come back here and hit Apply Changes. The reason I'm going to do that is so all I can do now is open and close this drawer. I can't accidentally grab the drawer. Like I said, this is an important concept. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get into the basics of laying track. Now, track is a little different in this game. If you're used to laying track in other games like Transport Fever or something like that, you're going to be shocked because in this program, track is laid as if it was like a model train track, which means it's individual pieces. Now, I'm just surfing through this little inventory here, and you can see how many different pieces. And one of the tools they actually give you is this one here that allows you to make custom pieces. Now, one of the cool tricks you can actually do is I can actually grab myself an extra drawer here. Let's go ahead, and again, this is just temporary. I'm not getting too complicated, hopefully. Go ahead and grab this drawer. I'm going to pull it back like this. And one of the options you actually have, it did go off the page here, is you can make a custom drawer. And that will actually enable you to drop all your pieces of track that you're going to use a million times. Like I said, totally up to you how you want to do that. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to lay some track. We're going to keep it real simple. And I'm going to start with this piece of track right here, which is just a little end of line track. Now, placing track is the same thing as locomotives. I left click, and you're going to get the little ghost. When I'm ready to let go, I just let go and it places it down there in the world. Now, I want to make this pretty darn straight to the table here so that I can kind of have it, like I said, a little bit of OCD, but I can't help it sometimes. And you'll probably notice I'm not perfectly straight here. So before I add more track to it, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to hold my mouse over it, press F. I'm going to bring it right up to the edge of the table here. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the corners here to determine how close to straight I am. So I'm looking there, and I'm looking like, again, you can look at the two little corner pieces there. And that's pretty darn good. So now I know that that piece of track is perfectly as straight about as I can get it without having some sort of absolute coordinate here. So what I'm going to do is I'm left click on it to make a copy. And you'll notice if I click and drag, it gives me this little ghost version. If I let go, of course. That's not a very long piece of track. So I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to press the F7 key. Now the F7 key will go ahead and make it so that it snaps to the side. But what you're observing right now is it isn't letting me snap to the side. And the reason for that is this little guy isn't considered like a full piece of track. When you run into that problem, the simplest thing to do is just grab yourself a quick section of straight track. I'll go ahead and grab this one because it's pretty easy. And then grab that one. And then if you have F7 mode on, snap it like that. So now that you have an even space between these two tracks. Now all I can do is grab that original piece, slap it on the end, and now I have myself two parallel sets of track pretty much ready to rock there, which worked great. So like I said, you're going to be doing a lot of that. Another thing people are going to be saying is there a way I can tweak how far apart these two pieces are? There's a couple different ways. I will show you the hacky way that I like to use first until I find out there's probably a shortcut key for it that is kicking me just a little bit. You'll know what I mean when you do it. So what we can do now is, I think this is kind of neat, if we want the tracks to be a little bit tighter together, we can actually go over to the custom tool and there's this variable called separation. So what we can actually do is we can reduce the separation. Let's say we do a half. And then if I place the track and I go ahead and grab it and place a second track, do you see how the distance between these is really tight now? So now you could theoretically grab this track, put it there, grab that track, put it there, and now you've basically shrunk the distances that the tracks automatically stick each other together. And again, it's totally up to you. I think we're getting a little outside of the basics here, but it just shows you just how much control you have over this. So anyway, let's go ahead and build this track out a little bit just for the purposes. Now, some of you are going, so if I needed a really long section of track, I'm going to have to do one of these things a few times. And I'd say, yeah, you probably are going to have to do one of those. As a matter of fact, I accidentally. That's the piece of track I wanted. Shift click, there we go. Shift click. Shift click, shift click. Again, if I let go of shift click, we're going to get something like that. Boop. Now you're saying, do I have to sit here and put each one of these pieces of track down? Well, if I've ever done real model trains, yeah, that's how it works. The bad news, though, is if you go for really, really long sections of track, it makes it less snappy, making it a little bit harder to change things later on. So one of the things you could do is if you're looking for a honking piece of track, is if you go to the track builder here, go up to straight, you can do things like this. I call this the overcompensation track. Be careful when you do that, that you don't accidentally the table there. There we go. And you can see now I have this honking section of track here. And I can see I have a slight left bias, but it's okay. I'll forgive myself some other day for that. So like I said, I recommend keeping your track sections relatively short. It's just going to make it a little bit easier to work with. All right, so that's how you lay straight track. I'm going to deal with curved track in a minute because it gets a little funky. But before I even get to curved track, let's talk about making the little turnouts here. So if we go back here, you'll notice there's 3 different general styles of turnout. We have one that looks like this. We have one that has a nice little straight curve for like a siding. And then we have this one, which is a turnout on a curve. Now notice that not only do we have the builder turnouts, but you also have this section here with the separation. Remember, by default, if we're using F7 mode, we get a normal 1.0 separation here. So let's go ahead and grab a turnout and go ahead and place it. So what I'm going to do is right click. I'm just going to throw it on the floor. It's going to work this time. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a turnout on both sides here. So go ahead and delete this and delete this. Grab my lovely turnout right here. Oh, let's go ahead and right click my turnout and go ahead and click. Now notice, if I place my turnout, I overlap this chunk of track. So your initial instinct is like, oh, obviously, just get rid of that one. So go ahead and click that one. I'll do it on the other side. It's backwards. Just press the Q key. And then if you have this issue where you can't quite line it up, press Shift and then the Q key, and it gives you the ability to actually swap the direction. Now, what's worth noting here is, do you see which side the switch is right now? If that bothers you, you're going to have to actually fitz around with that a little more aggressively so that you grab the other track tool so that you can make it work the way that you want it. So like if I do that, see how they're both on the same side? That's going to be the case universally. We can flip the side if we wanted to, but that's going to get a little fancy and I wouldn't do too much with it. So now we have this new problem that we have overlapping tracks. So you're like, oh, I can fix this. No problem, no problem. I'm just going to go in here, grab a nice short piece of track, and go ahead and, doesn't look like it fits. No, it's never going to fit. I hate to say it. Some people, of course, will be like, wait, I can make this work. Let's try a number 6 track. Is that going to work? No. Let's, actually, we should probably do the number 6 track where we said, nah, that's not going to work. Let's try a 5.5 track. Oh, hey, not bad. That worked. Of course, now I've got the double sleeper, which is going to make me insane. Don't work that hard. There's actually a better way to do it. And there's this thing called a gap fill track. So if you go ahead and click on it, if you click, it's going to allow you to go ahead and define a built track. So in this case, see how it's snapping to itself? Pressing the Q and E key allows you to circulate which one you're actually connecting to. So you can actually do that if you wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that one there. I'll go ahead and make a copy of it. Connect that one, just like that. So now you can see how insanely useful that is. So the good thing here is now that these guys are the same length, we can now use the copy tool here to go ahead and make it so that all these tracks are all nice and uniformly the same direction here. That looks good. That looks good. Sweet. So if I were to actually take a look, let me go ahead and put this away. Do you see how each one of these tracks is now in the exact same position here? That's going to give you a lot more control. And I know for some people, we've already gone way too far as trying to be precise here. But depending on what you're trying to achieve, sometimes you need that level of precision for what you're working on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go ahead and slap it here and slap it here. So you can see I have myself a really nice little section of track here. Now, a couple of you probably say, hey, could you put a little thing on the end of this so we know it's the end of the line? All right. Believe it or not, they do have that as an option. So if I go to my track options, pop to the tip top here, zip all the way through. I think it's I always forget what page it's on. It's like page, there it is right there. And then we had the little end of track things. And again, we're just going to shift, click, and drag. And you can see you get a preview. You can press Q and E if you want to rotate it. That looks good right there. Nice. Now with the little end of line from Tron. Cool. So at this point, you should be fairly comfortable laying out straight track. Now, one of the most recent new features they added into a rolling line is the ability to copy groups of tracks. Now, that is an awesome feature, and I'm actually going to take a few moments to show you how that works because I find it so useful. All right, remember how these are our little half tracks? We don't want to mess those. We cut those with pliers so that they fit properly. So let's say we want to take these 3 tracks and we want them to kind of go this way. And this would be especially true if you have a lot of different options on the track itself. What you could do now is if you go over to the track tool and make your way to, what page is it? Page, is this the one I want? I always got to look. There it is right there, page 5. Grab this thing called the grouping tool. Now watch this. I'm going to left click on each one of these tracks to highlight them. Scroll down and then left click again to make them a group. So I'm going to go put this in my pocket. Now check this out. This is now a group of tracks. And watch how useful this is. Look at that. Whoops. Swing and a miss, as they say. All right, here we go. Look at that. So now the cool thing here is if I need to break these tracks up into individual components, I can go back to the group tool, select this group, and I can actually break this group here. So break. So now they're all individual tracks again. Now that's really useful for us because let's say we wanted to take these two and make them start a gradual curve. Now we can come back over here, find ourselves a gradual curve. I choose you. I hate it when I do that. I do that every time, I swear. Don't click on the track. Click on where you want to place the track. Oh, it's because it's on F7 mode. I'm sorry. That was my bad. There we go. I was on F7 mode. Remember how that snaps the track? It was trying to make a straight line there. Let's go swing that the other way. Q. And now you can see I've got myself a pretty cool little track here. So I'm going to go ahead and curve this around a little bit more. Make this a fairly tight curve. That is not really as tight as I wanted it to be. I'm really nervous about making a super sharp curve. So, this is a good time to take a look at the curve builder because this is definitely a scenario where you'd want to use it. So I want that curve to basically run right over the corner right here. So I'm going to go over here. Of course, what you could do is you could sit here and play with every combination of curve, trying to find exactly the one you want. Or you could do what I do, and you just zip over to the curve builder here. So this is a radius 6 curve. So let's go down a radius 5 curve. And the nice thing here is you can set the overall angle. So for example, if I know I need to be a 45-degree angle, which is what I need to be, I can actually set that just like that. So now if I come in here like this, that's pretty good, actually. Now I know it's a 90-degree angle. That was sweet. Sometimes I impress myself. There we go. So now we know we have a pure 90-degree angle here, because 45 and 45 is going to be 90, and we're going to scoot kind of that way. So now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and clean this up real quick. I'll grab myself some straight track, do a little bit of this, and it looks pretty good. Then we'll do a long curve kind of that way. Grab some of that straight track, shift left click. There we go. Nice. So now we have ourselves kind of one of these sort of things going around, and then we can go ahead and get ourselves a gradual track. Like we could do a 35. Again, if it adds up to 90, we could do, let's see, a 15 with a bunch of little pieces. There's a lot of different ways that we could kind of take that right turn there. As long as it adds up to 90, it doesn't matter. I could do, you know, a bunch of 10-degree pieces, for example, depending on what I'm trying to achieve. So let's see here. If we do 90 degrees divided by 4, that's 22.5. So we can actually come down here and now have this nice smooth track here, and I can increase its radius a little bit too. Let's do an 8 at a 22.5. So theoretically, this should take 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 to come 90 degrees, and you can see exactly what that looks like. Now, I didn't want 90 degrees. It turns out I wanted 180 degrees, which really meant I wanted to do 45s. There we go. Let's grab it. Let's see how much table this is going to take up here. Nah, I think it's going to be too much table. Ah, humbug, I say. Humbug, I say. All right, we just go with a shorter radius then. Ugh. That's a really short radius. 290. It's pretty close to the edge of my table there. I don't know if I like that aspect of it very much. But like I said, we can always play with it. So now the cool thing is I can bend it like that. So now if I grab it, again, it's all about that shift click that I can kind of do one of those. Now, some of you are sitting there saying, can we use the gap fill tool to, like, do that? Yeah, you can. You definitely can. But for our purposes, and I'm going for precision here just to demonstrate how, like I said, not long it takes to develop things, I'm actually going to go ahead and go for it. Let's see. Da-da-da. We need a gap. Because remember, there's a basic gap in here that doesn't actually get taken into account. Now we can grab the gap filler. And ta-da, got it. So now we have ourselves a really, really basic little layout here. Like I said, we don't have anything too complicated. We're going kind of up and over, and then we're kind of swinging back down the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and call the video right here because, like I said, at this point, you should have more than enough to get yourself in a lot of trouble as far as laying this stuff out. Next time what we'll do is we'll take a look at elevation changes as well as how you can do signals. Enjoy.